We've got some nice examples to work with here in example 3. We want to solve and justify these. If we take a look, these are a little bit different than the ones that we were doing before. Here we've got to do a couple different steps. When I see problems like this, I like to separate all the terms first. That's what my little squiggly line means. So there's a term 2x, -5, an equal sign, and then another term 9. If we look only at the left-hand side, we want the x to stay on this side, but we do need to get rid of this -5. When we're adding or subtracting a term or moving a term, we just add or subtract. Don't multiply or divide. So this is -5, so we're going to add 5 to each side. If you prefer, you can even write that down. Add 5 to both sides. And then the -5 plus 5 is 0. We'll be left with a 2x is equal to 9 plus 5 is 14. Then we'll divide by 2 on each side. That's the coefficient here. We're multiplying the 2 and the x. We need to do the inverse. And we'll find x to be 7. If you wanted to, you could take this value and plug it back in. 2 times 7 is 14. 14 minus 5 is 9. So this is the only value in this case that balances the equation out. What we did from this step to this step goes here, and all we did is divide each side by 2. This problem is similar. We again have two terms on the left, one term on the right. We need to keep this -5x here, and then we'll deal with the -5 later. So we're going to add 2 to each side. -5x is equal to -7 plus 2, which is -5. Then we'll divide by -5. X is equal to 1. -5 times 1 is -5. -5 minus 2 is -7. So this value does check out. You can either write that check out or do that mentally, or maybe even perform that in your calculator. That'd be a nice use of your calculator. So let's write down what our justification is, what we did. We added 2 to both sides. And then here we divided by -5 on each side. We have 4 more here to do in example 3. Some of them get a little tricky, so just stick with me for a little bit. And for this one, we've got 3x plus 3 is equal to 12. This one's not too bad. We're adding 3 here, so we'll subtract 3. So we could say subtract 3 from each side. When we do that, we've got 3x, that's 0. 12 minus 3 is 9. We're multiplying the 3 and the x here, so we need to divide by 3. So x will be 3. What we did from this step to this step will come next on the right hand side, and so we divided by 3 on both sides. In this example, we still have 2 terms on the left. We need to keep this -m here. We'll deal with the negative sign later. This is a +6, and so we're going to subtract 6 if we want to remove that term. -m here is going to be equal to 10 minus 6, which is 4. You might think you're finished because you don't see any coefficient like 2 or 6 or negative, whatever over here. But this is really like kind of a -1. There's 2 ways to clear out this -1 here. We can multiply by -1 or divide by -1, whichever you find to be easier. And so negative over negative is a positive, 1 divided by 1 is 1, and we're just left with m. m is -4. So 6 minus -4 is the same as 6 plus 4, and that's 10. So this value does work for us. Here we divided by -6. Here we divided, and you could have multiplied by -1, but we divided by -1 on each side, and we'll write that here, and that's important, on each side. Good. I'm going to move the page up just a little bit so you have a little bit better view of the bottom 2 problems here. So we just have a couple left. We're going to divide the terms here, subtract 10. And then we have 7x on the left hand side. -25 minus 10 is -35. We'll divide by 7. We've got a negative divided by a positive. That's a negative. 35 divided by 7 is 5. So we've got a negative 5 here. And if we plug that one in or substitute in for x, it would work. What we did from this step to this step is we divided by 7 on each side. This next example is similar. We're going to separate those terms. We'll get rid of this 7 first. So we'll subtract 7 from each side. And we've got x over negative 3. That's 0. And this will be negative 12. We'll multiply by negative 3 here on each side. Those will cancel. Then now x is a negative times a negative, which is a positive, and 12 times 3 is 36. What we did to each side up here, from this step to this step, is we multiplied by negative 3.